And there's enough votes here. This is a good test to see how bad this would be. Swag put this out, and it's starting to make the rounds. I voted. Okay, Fever fans, answer this. If Caitlin leaves Fever, would you still support the Fever? We got 1,145 votes here. Nope, my bags are packed is far and away.
So we're connecting the dots on something that should make every WNBA executive wake up in a cold sweat. When Caitlin Clark's trading card sells for more than double her entire 4-year contract, and 77% of fans are literally packing their bags if she leaves Indiana, we're not talking about normal sports economics anymore. We're talking about a complete system breakdown that exposes how fundamentally broken the WNBA's value recognition has become. What other channels won't tell you is that this isn't just about card collecting or fan loyalty. This is about an institution so disconnected from its own economic reality that they're still protecting coaching decisions while their golden goose is being valued by the free market at nearly 2 million% above her official compensation. And here's what the temperature of the online conversation is telling us about where this leads. But first, if you're part of the narrative analyst community that appreciates when someone actually follows the digital breadcrumbs, instead of just repeating press releases, hitting that subscribe button helps us keep filtering out the noise. We've got exclusive polling data, coaching controversy analysis, and the financial mathematics that Indiana's front office is apparently still pretending doesn't exist. The roadmap for today starts with the jaw-dropping economics of what just happened in the collectibles market. Then we're diving into the poll results that should terrify every team executive, analyzing the coaching decisions that might be sabotaging their biggest asset, and finally connecting this to the broader pattern of institutional resistance that's been building since the Olympic snub. By the end, you'll understand exactly why this $660K sale isn't just a collectible story. It's a warning shot that could reshape how the WNBA values its own stars. Let's start with the numbers that should make everyone uncomfortable. Caitlin Clark's rookie card just sold for $660,000. Her entire 4-year WNBA contract? $338,056. That means the free market just valued a piece of cardboard with her image at nearly twice what the professional league thinks 4 years of her actual basketball is worth.
Listen, NBA players make 50% of revenues. WNBA players make 9%. And now the merch sales are up 500% and attendance is up, 40%. So they're going to get a raise. There's no question. And I don't really care that the previous 25 years they didn't make a lot of money or lost money. I don't care. They're in the middle of a negotiation and they're on a heater. So it doesn't really matter. I've said this before. I made an investment for 5 years and it lost money, and I got about 6 months left in the investment, and in the last 6 months they started making cash, I'm not bailing on the investment. I want to finally get my money back. So they're going to get a raise. They're finally turning a corner. But and negotiating in any business is all about current momentum. It's not about 12 years ago. It's about current momentum.
The temperature of the online conversation around this sale reveals something the mainstream coverage missed. This isn't collectors being irrational. This is the market correcting for institutional undervaluation on a scale that makes tech stock bubbles look conservative. When Colin Cowherd breaks down those revenue numbers, 500% merchandise growth and 40% attendance increases, he's describing an economic transformation that the salary structure hasn't even begun to acknowledge. But here's where following the digital breadcrumbs gets interesting. The same week this card sale breaks records, a poll surfaces that quantifies exactly what happens when institutions ignore market signals. Swag's viral question to Fever fans, if Caitlin leaves Fever, would you still support the Fever? Generated over 1,100 responses with a result that should send every front office scrambling.
And there's enough votes here. This is a good good test to see how bad this would be. Swag put this out, and it's starting to make the rounds. I voted. Okay, Fever fans, answer this. If Caitlin leaves Fever, would you still support the Fever? We got 1,145 votes here. Nope, my bags are packed is far and away.
77% said, nope, my bags are packed. That's not casual fandom. That's economic dependency being measured in real time. When you calculate that against Gainbridge Fieldhouse's capacity, we're talking about potentially 13,000 season ticket holders who just declared their loyalty follows the player, not the franchise. Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the pattern, this represents the largest recorded fan loyalty migration threat in professional sports history. That brings us to the inevitable question that's dominating Reddit threads and social media analysis. If the market values her at $660K for a trading card, and 77% of your fan base threatens to leave if she does, why are you still making coaching decisions that limit her effectiveness? The signals point to something deeper than basketball strategy here.
She had Van Slugenhagen on her. She was like, I'm offended that y'all have white defensive players guarding me, and she put her in the torture chamber. You should have known from her little face that she didn't want this matchup from the beginning. Caitlin reminds me of what Dame does. If anybody ever noticed, her first shot, always a three. First quarter, second quarter, third. She sets the distance on her first shot, so you have to guard her there. Now she can do whatever she wants to do. She's playing a chess game. That's what Dame does. He starts his game off, he's gonna shoot a deep-ass three to.
Okay, now let's get into rumor territory. Nothing is officially confirmed, but the online chatter is too loud to ignore. Sources suggest tensions between Caitlin and coach Stephanie White have been escalating since training camp. The competitive analysis reveals a pattern where Clark gets moved to off-ball positions despite her point guard excellence, implementing slower-paced systems that contradict her fast break strengths, and allegedly showing resistance to her star status that's becoming visible in body language analysis. But the story doesn't end there. The temperature of fan surveillance around timeouts and press conferences indicates something that traditional sports media won't touch. When your coaching philosophy seems designed to contain your biggest asset instead of unleashing her, and the market is simultaneously screaming that she's worth more than your entire organizational structure recognizes you're not managing basketball anymore. You're managing an economic crisis in slow motion. What they missed in all the card sale coverage is how this connects to the broader institutional resistance pattern that's been building since the Olympic selection controversy. Remember, this is the same establishment that gave Diana Taurasi a farewell present Olympic spot, while Clark was averaging 30 points and 7 three-pointers in games that were breaking viewership records.
On the night that I broke the news, someone read me the list that Caitlin Clark was not on the Olympic team, which was June 7th. She had just had 30 points and 7 threes against Washington in an amazing game. And bottom line on this is they did not want her on the team. There was either a sense that she needs to wait her turn. They wanted to give Diana Taurasi the going away present. Name another time when you would ever give an athlete a going away present with an Olympic berth. Outrageous. So Caitlin said, hey, it's okay. And in interviews, she said, it's all right, I'll make it the next time. Well, in the book, I have a wonderful anecdote from
The digital breadcrumbs from that Olympic snub reveal a decision-making process that prioritizes veteran hierarchy over performance metrics. When sports media insiders start calling it outrageous to give someone a going-away present with an Olympic berth, especially when the excluded player was in peak form, you're seeing the same institutional thinking that now struggles to connect a $660K card sale to systematic undervaluation. I've been filtering through the noise around Stephanie White's coaching decisions, and the signals suggest something more concerning than tactical disagreements. Fan analysis of rotation patterns shows Clark being parked in corners, while teammates with questionable shooting percentages get green lights. When your superstar manages 15 assists and 23 points while ducking elbows and navigating referee chaos, and the post-game response is silence instead of celebration, that's not coaching. That's resistance.
T-shirts don't bother me, but why do you take a shot at the Golden Goose, Caitlin Clark? You guys were flying before she arrived on one of those airlines that made you pay for a cup of water. One of those airlines that is the planes are the color of a highlighter. Now you're flying private. Okay, if you're in a band and you're staying at the Motel 6 and you add a band member and now you're at the Ritz-Carlton, keep your issues to yourself.
But here's what the other. Channels won't tell you about how this economic reality should be reshaping organizational priorities. When Colin Cowherd uses those airline metaphors, flying from pay-for-water carriers to private jets because of one-team addition, he's describing exactly what Indiana experienced with Clark's arrival. The question becoming urgent in front office conversations is whether they understand the Ritz-Carlton situation they're now in. The narrative temperature mapping around Clark's absence during injury shows the brutal mathematics of dependence. Viewership dropped 55% when she wasn't playing. National broadcasts went from 1.81 million to 847,000 viewers. That's not statistical variation. That's proof of individual transcendence that makes the 660K card sale look conservative rather than inflated. So what's fact and what's speculation? Let's break it down. The card sale is fact. The poll results are documented. The viewership drops are measurable. The coaching decisions and body language analysis fall into rumor territory, but the pattern is too consistent to ignore. When Reddit communities start systematically questioning coaching rotations and demanding dismissals, that's grassroots pressure building toward organizational crisis.
Caitlin Clark and the WNBA after Caitlin Clark. Describe these two worlds.
Oh, entirely different. 180, you know. The WNBA before started in 1997, the year after the Atlanta Olympics, and was launched into a time when women's sports was still not taken seriously by a lot of, people. And some of those same guys now, if we want to talk about before and after, some of those same guys, or guys like them, are the ones buying the 22 jerseys, wearing them to games, Major, but also to the grocery store and to the gas station. Right. It is now cool to be a WNBA fan, and it is cool to love Caitlin Clark and the spotlight that is finally shining on these players.
The angle nobody's covering is how this cultural transformation proves that Clark isn't just changing basketball, she's changing how sports fandom works. When fans proudly wear jerseys to grocery stores and gas stations, when it becomes cool to be a WNBA fan specifically because of one player's impact, you're witnessing something that transcends traditional team loyalty structures. But the temperature of the online conversation suggests this transformation is fragile. Fan migration patterns show allegiance tied to individual rather than franchise. The poll results confirm what informal social media analysis already revealed. These aren't casual fans who might stick around for team history or city connection. These are converted disciples who found basketball religion through Clark's performance, and their faith follows her GPS. That brings us to the most dangerous part of this equation for Indiana's front office. Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the digital breadcrumbs, the pressure is escalating toward a choose-your-side moment between coaching staff and superstar player. When your most valuable asset is generating this level of market response while facing internal limitations, organizational restructuring isn't speculation anymore. It's mathematical inevitability.
The living shit out of the Indiana Fever. So Indiana Fever, and it's been my belief that they will frickin' fire everyone. And I do believe this. So if you're a Fever fan and you're hoping they'll keep Caitlin Clark, it's my belief that when push comes to shove, There's no way they can let her get away. They will fire everybody and start over. That's my belief. I cannot imagine the level of fumbling the bag that would have to be done.
The prediction that Indiana will fire everyone before losing Clark isn't emotional hyperbole. It's risk. Management based on economic dependency that's now measurable through trading card markets and fan polling data. When the alternative is watching 13,000 season ticket holders follow their investment to another city, personnel decisions become survival calculations. Here's what I've discovered connecting the dots across multiple information sources. The Gatorade Let Her Cook controversy, the Olympic snub pattern, the coaching limitation strategies, and now the card sale economic shock all point to the same institutional dynamic. Establishments that built their authority around controlling star power are discovering that some stars transcend the control mechanisms. The temperature of conversations in WNBA communities reveals something traditional coverage missed. This isn't about basketball, strategy disagreements anymore. This is about whether institutions can adapt to economic realities that their traditional frameworks can't process. When your salary structure gets exposed as fundamentally inadequate by collectibles markets, when your coaching philosophy gets questioned by statistical fan analysis, when your Olympic selection gets called outrageous by mainstream sports personalities, you're experiencing systematic credibility breakdown.
3. I'm going to pass on that question, actually. WNBA star Caitlin Clark is transforming women's sports. She fills arenas night after night, and her games have smashed TV viewership records. And if you watch Clark play, well, it's not hard to figure out why. She makes deep three-pointers look easy. And like all stars, wants the ball when the game is on the line.
But the story doesn't end there, because what mainstream sports coverage validates about Clark's transformational impact through arena attendance and viewership records is just the surface layer. The deeper layer is how she's making women's basketball must-see television for demographics that traditional WNBA marketing never reached. Okay, now let's get into rumor territory again. Nothing is officially confirmed, but sources suggest Clark brings external trainers for injury recovery, bypassing team medical staff and creating authority conflicts. The online chatter around front office comments about building enduring brands beyond individual players sparked enough backlash to force account deletions. These aren't isolated incidents. They're symptoms of an organization struggling to process that their entire business model now depends on properly managing one person's career satisfaction. The competitive analysis of other teams watching this situation reveals strategic opportunities that should terrify Indiana's management. When fan loyalty is portable and measurable through polling data, when economic impact is quantifiable through viewership and merchandise, when market valuation is demonstrable through trading card sales, you're not just managing a player anymore. You're managing a business asset that other organizations are actively calculating how to acquire. What the sophisticated analysis reveals is that Clark's effect on basketball culture extends beyond statistics into psychological territory. When middle schoolers and 80-year-old basketball lifers find common ground through her gameplay, when casual fans become diehards specifically because of her court vision and Steph Curry range, when even people who thought the WNBA played on 9-foot rims start planning watch parties, you're witnessing cultural transformation that creates different economic rules.
Clark is a media driver. She is a ratings driver. Think about the NBA post Magic and Larry, the NBA post Michael Jordan, tennis post Serena Williams, golf post Tiger Woods, right? There are certain athletes that drive the sport more than others. And that's not to take away from anyone else drafted tonight. That's not to take away from the other incredible superstars in the WNBA right now.
The historical comparison to Magic, Jordan, Serena, and Tiger isn't hyperbole when you analyze the metrics. These are the rare athletes who drive their sports beyond traditional boundaries, creating new audience segments and revenue streams that didn't exist before their emergence. The $660K card sale is market confirmation that Clark has reached this transcendent tier where individual value exceeds institutional frameworks. But here's where the institutional resistance becomes most visible through social media analysis. When WNBA players vote Clark 9th among guards despite fan and media support overwhelming her in other polling, when Olympic selection processes exclude peak performers for veteran farewell presents, when coaching decisions seem designed to limit rather than unleash transcendent talent, you're seeing systematic pushback against disruption. The temperature of conversations around these patterns suggests something that traditional sports coverage won't acknowledge. Some institutions prefer controlled mediocrity to uncontrolled excellence because excellence disrupts established power, structures. When your superstar makes everyone else's limitations more visible, when her success highlights other players' shooting percentages that resemble Powerball odds more than professional athletics, when her presence transforms organizational expectations, resistance becomes psychological rather than strategic. I've been filtering through the noise around what happens next, and the signals point toward escalating pressure that forces organizational choices. The trading card market established external valuation metrics that salary structures can't ignore. The fan polling provided measurable loyalty data that revenue projections must incorporate. The viewership drops during absence proved individual dependency that broadcast contracts will reflect.
I was mesmerized by her. And I will tell you this. This was the greatest performance I've ever seen in the NCAA tournament, girl or boy. Greatest performance.
On this biggest stage?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because rarely does a game like this live up to its hype.
Yeah.
You know, rarely do you have the two superstars play like superstars, because you got to understand the scout report is geared to stop you. You know, all the hype coming into this is going to be people who've never watched a girls' basketball game watched.
That
a lot of people.
When sports authorities declare Clark's NCAA tournament performance the greatest they've ever seen regardless of gender, when the analysis emphasizes how rarely superstars perform like superstars under maximum pressure, when the historical context positions her achievement as transcendent, you understand why institutional control mechanisms are failing. Some talent levels exist beyond management frameworks designed for normal player development. The predictive analysis suggests organizational restructuring becomes inevitable when external market pressures exceed internal resistance capacity. If Clark's card values continue appreciating while her salary remains institutionally capped, if fan migration threats maintain 77% levels, while coaching limitations persist, if viewership dependency deepens while Olympic-style exclusions continue, something breaks, and institutions usually choose survival over pride when the economic mathematics become undeniable. But the most dangerous part of this equation for other WNBA teams is how portable this entire ecosystem becomes. Clark's fan base isn't geographically tied or traditionally loyal. They're following performance and treatment rather than logos or cities. When organizational dysfunction becomes visible through trading card disparities and coaching controversies, when fan satisfaction becomes measurable through polling and attendance patterns, when alternative markets like Las Vegas or New York start calculating acquisition strategies, loyalty becomes negotiable. What nobody's saying publicly but everyone's calculating privately is that Clark's next contract negotiation won't follow traditional WNBA frameworks. When external markets value you at levels that expose salary structures as systematically inadequate, when fan bases threaten measurable migration if you're mismanaged, When coaching limitations become social media talking points that affect organizational reputation, you're not negotiating basketball contracts anymore. You're negotiating business partnerships where player satisfaction drives revenue sustainability. The digital breadcrumbs suggest that Indiana's front office understands this mathematical reality, even if their public statements maintain traditional messaging. When keeping your superstar happy becomes synonymous with keeping your business viable. When coaching decisions affect trading card markets and fan polling data, when individual performance transcendence creates organizational dependency, personnel, choices become existential rather than tactical. Here's what the competitive intelligence reveals about where this leads. Other organizations are monitoring Indiana's Clark management as case study for how not to handle transcendent talent. When market signals scream value while institutions whisper control, when fan loyalty becomes portable while performance excellence becomes undeniable, when external validation through collectibles and polling contradicts internal limitation. Strategies? The organization that adapts fastest wins the competitive advantage. The temperature of the online conversation around Clark's future suggests that fans understand this dynamic better than traditional sports media. They're not just supporting a player, they're investing in a cultural movement that exists beyond traditional franchise boundaries. When movement loyalty supersedes geographical loyalty, when performance appreciation transcends team tradition, when individual excellence creates community identity, you're managing something bigger than basketball. So where does this leave Indiana's decision-makers? The 660K card sale, the 77% Exodus poll, the viewership dependency metrics, and the coaching controversy social media analysis all point toward the same conclusion: institutional adaptation or competitive disadvantage. Market, recognition, or revenue loss. Superstar satisfaction or business model failure. The angle that other channels miss is how this connects to broader sports business evolution. When individual transcendence becomes measurable through external markets, when fan loyalty becomes quantifiable through digital polling, when organizational decisions affect collectibles values and attendance projections, traditional management frameworks require updating. The institutions that understand this first gain sustainable competitive advantages. The institutions that resist this longest face systematic irrelevance. What's fact is that Clark's economic impact now exceeds her institutional compensation by mathematical ratios that make traditional salary structures look antiquated. What's speculation is whether Indiana's front office can adapt their decision-making processes to match external market realities before other organizations offer competitive alternatives. But the digital evidence suggests this speculation is becoming less speculative daily. When trading card markets provide valuation metrics, when fan polling provides loyalty data, when viewership drops provide dependency measurements, when social media analysis provides coaching effectiveness. Feedback, the information available to make optimal organizational decisions, has never been more comprehensive or more urgent. The bottom line that connects all these digital breadcrumbs is simple. Caitlin Clark's 660K trading card sale doesn't just destroy Indiana's salary logic. It exposes how fundamentally disconnected institutional frameworks have become from market realities. And when 77% of your fan base is ready to migrate with her if organizational dysfunction continues, adaptation stops being optional and becomes survival strategy. That's what the temperature of the online conversation is really telling us. This isn't about card collecting or coaching philosophy anymore. This is about whether traditional sports institutions can evolve fast enough to match the transcendent talent they're trying to manage. And right now, the external markets are suggesting that evolution is happening too slowly. So what do you think? Are we watching institutional adaptation in real time, or organizational resistance that's about to cost Indiana everything they've built around Clark's impact? Drop your analysis in the comments, because this community's competitive intelligence gathering helps us stay ahead of the traditional coverage that's still pretending these are normal basketball business decisions. And if this breakdown of the digital breadcrumbs connecting trading card economics to institutional dysfunction resonated with your understanding of what's really happening in the WNBA, hitting that subscribe button helps us keep investigating the stories behind the stories. Because when markets speak this loudly and institutions listen this quietly, someone needs to keep connecting the dots. Share this with anyone who needs to understand why Clark's card sale represents more than collectibles mania. It's economic, evidence of systematic undervaluation that's creating organizational pressure toward change or replacement. And that pressure is measurable, urgent, and accelerating.